Hey everybody, so we are entering into the holiday season. Heck, we're like already here, and there is a real fatigue happening out there in the world. Call it the COVID 2020 fatigue, the election. I mean, there's just been so much craziness this year that I'm sure you're feeling a sense of exhaustion if you're like me headed into the holiday season. So I want to offer you a couple ways to say no more often. I think that saying no is one of the things that is very uncomfortable for us as women. We have been bred to say yes even when we feel like saying no, to say yes even when we are tapped out, depleted, exhausted. The expectation of us as women, and I don't know if this is like a Southern thing or if this is just across the board, the expectation is that you say yes. And I think it's important to recognize that we're coming into this holiday season with a little less, if not a lot less, bandwidth than we would normally have given a year where we didn't have a pandemic and we didn't have all the crazy politics and elections and everything else that we've experienced this year. Like, just even think back about last year and the holiday stress that you experienced then. It was there. People were talking about it. And yet now we have this added exhaustion to the normal everyday stress mixed in with some grief in the fact that for a lot of people it's a quarantined Christmas. They're not able to be with their loved ones. They're not able to be with extended family and friends. So even that is different this year. The expectations that we have for the holidays to be this beautiful, like merry and bright season, it's charged with a lot of energy. So learning how to say no is going to be really useful. And if you aren't super comfortable with using your voice and demonstrating that old saying of no is a complete sentence, then this is a great little baby step process to help you get more comfortable in saying no more often so that you can say yes for the things that you really want to say yes for. Because every time we say yes to something we don't really want to do or we feel obligated to do, it means we have to say no to something else. And if we really want to create space and have energy for the things that replenish us, that bring us joy and pleasure and help us live more fully alive, we've got to get good at exercising that no. So I'm going to take you through 4 ways to say no, starting with like the real bottom rung of a ladder so that you can get more comfortable. So it's going to be 4 B's. So the first B in using your voice is the back out. And this is where maybe you've said yes out of reaction. Like somebody says, hey, can you make the cookies, or can you make the rolls for the Christmas dinner, or can you drive grandma to wherever? And you instinctively, without giving yourself time to think about whether or not you want to do it, you say yes. So the back out is basically where you go back and you back out of a commitment that you've already made. And again, this is not maybe the ideal way, but this is sort of that first piece of getting more comfortable with saying it. It's like you said yes, and then later you go, I really don't want to do that. It's going back and saying, hey, I'm so sorry, but I'm actually not going to be able to do that thing I said I was going to do. I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to reschedule. And you don't even have to give a reason if you don't want to. But if you feel like it, I know for me, I had to, at the beginning, tell little white lies. And I wouldn't advocate this normally, but to get out of it in a way that gives you a little bit of an emotional buffer for yourself as you kind of build up this courage. So the first B is the back out. The second B is the but. So that's where you say, okay, gosh, I'd really love to, but I'm just swamped, or but I'm not able to do it this time, or but I don't have time, but we're not doing this year. And obviously you can give an excuse there. You can say a but. Thank you, but. Okay, that's a great kind of like second rung of the ladder. The third B, the third rung of this ladder, is the buffer. And I love this one so much because it gives you a pause in between thinking about immediately saying yes to actually pausing to think about, do I really want to do this? So it sounds something like this. You know what? Thank you so much for asking me. Let me think about it, and I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. Or, you know, I'm going to think about that over the weekend. I'll talk to you about it on Monday. You give yourself a time buffer so that you can, in a way, like slow the process down and give yourself time to meditate on it, to pray on it, to tap in and go, do I have the emotional bandwidth, energetic bandwidth to do this or not? Is this the year for it? Does it make sense with everything else I've got going on? If I say yes to this, what will I have to say no to outside of this? So the buffer is giving yourself that time buffer to slow it down and think about it before you respond. And then the last and fourth B is the buck stops here. This is where you literally get your graduation hat and you've gotten to the point where you can literally say, no, but thanks for thinking of me. Like if somebody says, hey, you know, can you do this? Or Mary, I'd like for you to do this. You know what? I'm not willing to do that this year, but thanks, you know, for asking me. Or if you could, the buck stops here. No, thanks, though. Or would you like to do this? No. Can you imagine? Like that to me is like graduation day when you can say no and allow that to be a complete sentence. So the back out, the but, the buffer, and the buck stops here. So those are your kind of easy ways to move into saying more no's this holiday season. And I'll leave you with this quote from Brene Brown. And she says, compassion means you say yes when you really mean it, and you say no most of the time. You can't be generous and loving when you feel run over and taken advantage of. You cannot be generous and loving when you feel run over and taken advantage of. So powerful. When we start to feel ourselves being resentful, overwhelmed, frustrated, annoyed, angry at people, it's a great indicator that we've been saying yes too often. And it's time to set some healthy boundaries over the holiday season. What you're doing, what's being discussed and talked about, your commitment levels, obligations, all of that are all up for renegotiation. So for you to decide, what do I really want to say yes to? What can I let go? What can I release? Perfection, events, old memories, past ways of doing things, old obligations, old commitments. And how is this year different for all of that? All right, guys, I'm wishing you a very happy holiday season with lots of no's, and I'll talk to you soon.